Dick? Mr. Rader?
Dick?
Hello?
Mis-
Mr. Rader?
Richard?
We need to start the meeting.
Stop talking, was that it?
Oh, here's it back.
I read this, I don't like it.
It is 1:30, and this meeting will come to order. This is the special open meeting of the United Laguna Woods Mutual Board of Directors. The purpose of this meeting is to review version 3 of the proposed 2027 business plan of United Laguna Woods Mutual in accordance with Civil Code Section 4930. There being no media, I will move to the next item. You have the agenda in front of you. Are there any objections? Yes?
So we're actually on air. Forgive me,
So-
it's not media, forgive me, continue,
Okay.
my apologies.
Thank you, Steve. You have the agenda in front of you. Are there any objections to the agenda as it stands?
Do you need a motion?
No. There being no objections, the agenda is hereby approved. Chair remarks. I'll be brief, but I just wanted to say that over the last few days, I was contacted by some of you and people who are here or not here, and by some residents. And the concern was that the 2027 fees are too low, and that the reserve is not high enough, which is true, and that we have an accumulated deficit, among other issues. I just want to say here that for a variety of reasons, I don't think it is wise to increase the fees for 27 any further. That is due because on the GRF side, we're already at 20%, and I expect next year, 28, to be at 20% also because of that deferral. They did for $15, moving to being deferred from 27. We need to not only pay the actual net cost of $55 in 28, but we also need to capture some of the deferral we did in 27. So as a result of that, the GRF will continue to be at 20%, possibly for a while. And of course, on the United side, we need to keep buttressing the reserve and also deal with increasing operating costs. The bottom line here is 28 and beyond will be challenging. The fees will be higher than 27, possibly much higher. As a result, I don't feel that it is appropriate to increase the fees for 27. So that's my opinion. It's on.
Can you talk into it a little more? I can hardly hear you. Can you move the mic toward you?
All right. I just,
That's one better, thank you.
yeah, all I said was that I do acknowledge some concern about the HOA fees being possibly low because of a variety of issues, but I think given the situation I just described in 28 and beyond, it would not be appropriate to increase the fees for 27. That's my stand. Of course, we will discuss it, and you guys.
We couldn't hear you very good. Could you explain again about the reserves part not going up?
No, we're
Why
going
it
to-
should not? I'm sorry, we couldn't hear you down here.
Oh, okay. What I said was 28 would be higher because of a confluence of at least two factors. The GRF contribution, which is 20% in 27, because they deferred about $15 into 28. That needs to be recaptured. And we also need to pay the actual $55 for Ting and DirecTV in 28. And there are some other issues. So my point being, 28 would be higher than 27, 29 being higher than 28. It's going to be challenging. And as a result, personally, I feel that we should hold the line on 27. At $107, I think it's high enough. And then proceed on that basis. That's my opinion.
Thank you. Thank
All
you.
right.
I appreciate it. And so does Kathy.
Thank you. All right. And item 6, open forum, 3 minutes per speaker. Do we have any speakers?
Yes, we have two comments, one from Zoom, Brett Gilman.
Mr. Gilman?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Brett Gilman, Manor 650. Was I acknowledged? I'm sorry, my audio went bad.
Yeah, go ahead.
You're okay?
Okay, sorry. My name is Brett Gilman, Manor 650C. I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to speak today regarding the proposed 27 budget appropriations. In particular, a budget appropriation submitted by the Maintenance and Construction Committee concerning the maintenance of mutual-owned sloped roofs. I also want to thank the Maintenance and Construction Committee for the time it has devoted to this issue over 2 meetings and for recognizing that recurring debris accumulation on certain mutual-owned composition shingle roofs warrants the board's consideration. However, during the July 28th Finance Committee meeting, one committee member stated that there is no evidence that accumulated roof debris causes damage to composition shingle roofs. That statement is inconsistent with both published manufacturer guidance and nationally recognized roofing industry standards. Owens Corning, one of the nation's leading manufacturers of asphalt composition shingles, recommends that accumulated organic debris be removed from roofs because it retains moisture against the roof surface. Owens Corning specifically recommends removing accumulated roof debris at least twice each year, and more frequently where nearby trees create recurring accumulation. The National Roofing Contractors Association, excuse me, the National Roofing Contractors Association likewise recognizes routine debris removal as an important part of proper roof maintenance because accumulated organic debris retains moisture, impedes drainage, promotes biological growth, and contributes to premature roof deterioration. It may also void the warranties on any roof repairs if maintenance is not properly maintained. The issue before the board is not whether a single piece of debris damages an asphalt shingle. The issue is whether recurring accumulation of organic debris create conditions that require routine maintenance. The published guidance of both a leading roofing manufacturer and the nation's principal roofing trade association clearly indicates that they do. If the board intends to conclude otherwise, I respectfully request that such a determination be supported by the opinion of an independent, qualified roofing professional rather than unsupported statements made during the discussion. This matter raises a significant contractual question. Article 11B of the United Mutual...
Mr. Gilman, your time is up. Mr. Gilman, your time is up. I'm sorry.
I see. Thank you very much for your consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Gilman. Appreciate it.
Dick Rader.
Comment about the budget, is this the appropriate time?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Testing.
Pull it towards you more.
Hello?
Mr. Rader, ideally, if your question has to do with the budget, we'll just maybe have you come up during the appropriate
It's a
time.
general question.
It is a general question?
Statement, so I'll do it later.
Please.
Thank you.
John Beckett.
This place is in a lot of trouble financially. We way overspent our income. And we've got to raise them now, as soon as possible, as much as possible. Otherwise, we're going to go into default. That's my opinion. Thank you.
I don't understand you, Mr. Beckett. I don't understand what you mean by default. Anyway, any other comments? There being no further comments, we move to item 7, responses to open forum speakers. I don't think we have any responses at this point. I just want to say one thing regarding the items that Mr. Gilman brought up. We don't have a program for the cleaning of sloped roofs, right? And Mr. Gomez came up with an exception plan for 6 buildings, and he never explained to us how he came up with the 6 buildings and how he came up with the cost for the cleaning of each building. We told Mr. Gomez that we need more information regarding the number of buildings that need to be cleaned and how he comes up with the cost.
In the meantime, you're in breach of contract, sir.
I'm just repeating what I said earlier, Mr. Gilman, and that's all I'll say. All right. We'll move to the next item, the review of the proposed 2027 United Business Plan, version 3.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon to the board and all who are tuning in today to TV6 to view and review the version 3 of the proposed business plan for United. Next slide, please, Karina. I want to take a moment and take a look at our budget calendar here that we issue on an annual basis. We and you as the board have seen this calendar before. And I'll go into a little more detail in a slide or two after this as far as how the budget is developed for everybody who's tuning in today. But I would like to just highlight committee reviews began for the 2027 business plan back in February. And then in June, version 1 was reviewed by the board, specifically in maintenance and general services. We would review each line item within that department for which or all programs for which they have responsibility, as well as landscape. And then the board had a chance to review version 1 of the business plan as a whole on June 8th. Version 2 was then distributed with any changes directed from the version 1 meetings back on July 2nd. And we are now here today to discuss and review version 3 of the proposed business plan, with changes recommended by August 20th, preferably, so by the board to get into the final version, which is up for review and approval on September 8th. Next slide, please. And at this time, I'd like to pass it over to Siobhan Foster for her remarks.
Thank you, Blake. Honorable members of the board, before our team begins reviewing the details of version 3 of the business plan, I want to thank each of you for your engagement throughout the process. We've had some really good dialogues, and I think we're coming up with a good business plan, and I appreciate your thoughts on that. The business plan, as you know, today reflects the priorities, operational needs, and strategic direction of each of our departments. The plan provides important context for the work ahead by outlining key initiatives, service level expectations, resources needed to support day-to-day operations, and the needs of our community. Following the board's review of earlier versions, staff carefully considered the feedback received from you and made appropriate refinements that are reflected in today's business plan. Thank you again for your leadership, and I'll turn it back to Blake for further.
Thank you, Siobhan. So before, I will highlight the budgeting process for everyone here, but before we do, I just want to highlight the major changes that are occurring this year in the 2027 assessment. Excluding the GRF portion, the proposed 2027 basic assessment for United is $619.65 per manor per month. It's an increase of $54.79 per manor per month, and this slide here is showing those 4 major significant items that are contributing to the increase, and together they account for 80% of the year-over-year increase in assessments. You're looking at an increase to your reserve fund contribution. That's $26.36 per man per month. Your utilities, that's $7.66 per man per month. That is mostly due to sewer and water based on consumption and published rates. You have employee compensation, at $5.59 per man per month, and hazard and liability insurance at $4.45 per man per month. And that's really due to an unfortunately unfavorable insurance market in that area. So altogether, that accounts for 80% of the year-over-year increase. Okay. So I know many members of the board are familiar with this process, but I'd like to touch on it once again and again for everybody tuning in today. At Laguna Woods, business planning is an iterative process. One of the changes we want to highlight is early engagement of committees, allowing for further and earlier discussion about items important to the committees. The budgeting process is conducted by each department head inputting individual account line items for each of the work centers they have responsibility. The department head reviews trends, considers contracts, and evaluates necessary staffing to ensure service levels are met. Each department head meets with the CEO, finance, and HR to justify staffing levels. Once the department heads are finished with their budgets, reports are compiled. The CEO meets again with finance and each individual department head to review the budget and suggest changes or revisions that allow for great service while maintaining reasonable assessments. All of this leads to version 1, or the starting point of the 2027 business plan. So the version 1 reviews took place in May and June, starting with M&C and general maintenance and general services reviews, followed by landscape. The board reviewed all aspects of the version 1 budget at their budget workshop on June 8th. We then took any changes directed from these meetings and any other staff-initiated changes to produce version 2, which was distributed to the board for review on July 2nd. And this leads us all to today to review version 3 of the proposed business plan. Any changes resulting from this meeting will be incorporated into the final version of the budget, which the board is set to adopt on September 8th. And this slide provides a 5-year history of the United Basic Assessment, and this does exclude the GRF portion. The proposed 2027 Basic Assessment reflects a net increase of $3.9 million, which translates to $54.79 per man or per month. And that's mainly due to what we saw in the earlier slides: reserve contribution increases, utilities, employee compensation, and hazard and liability insurance. And we view it a little bit of a different way here. So this includes your GRF contribution, and this gives you a 5-year history as well of the total basic assessment. The proposed 2027 total basic assessment reflects a net increase of $7.9 million in total, which is about exactly $107.16 per man or per month. This slide summarizes the proposed 2027 United Business Plan on a per man or per month basis. The proposed United Basic Assessment, as mentioned on the previous slide, is $619.65 per man or per month, which is an increase of $54.79 per man or per month, or 9.7% in a percentage format there. The increase is primarily driven by operating costs and reserve funding, as mentioned before. But if you look down at the bottom line, so in the leftmost column, you see your 2026 budget. That is what you are currently paying at $826.78 per man or per month. The new assessment proposed for 2027 will be $933.94. This slide here summarizes the 2027 reserve funding plan and the overall strength of the reserve fund. As of January 1, 2027, the fund is projected to begin the year with approximately $14.2 million, compared with a fully funded balance of approximately $55.3 million, resulting in a funded level of 25.6%. And as you can see on the screen, United is reserving at the recommended 2027 contribution rate as described in the reserve study. Here we're breaking it out more long-term, so this shows 30-year projection out to 2056 of your reserve fund. The fund begins 2027 at approximately 25.6% funded, but with continued annual reserve contributions, the funded percentage gradually improves and moves into the medium risk range in the early 2030s.
If I could add on to that comment too. So it's staff's recommendation that you hit and maintain the 30% funding levels. So even though it's colored as a yellow, that is your target. So the mere fact that by the end of 2030, you're going to be hitting at about 29%, you are matching what staff's recommending to do. So to address the earlier comment in terms of you're in desperate need of additional funding, to Blake's point earlier, you did a great job proposing $26 per man per month increase to your funding levels. So you have a plan in place to get to the desired funding levels, and staff feels that that is adequate at this time.
Thank you, Steve. Next slide, Karina. Thank you. So this slide provides a close-up of both the historical and 5-year projected view of United's reserve fund. Despite $18.1 million planned in reserve expenditures for 2027, the fund is projected to end the year at approximately $15.4 million. So going forward, contributions are projected to increase gradually while annual expenditures fluctuate based on the timing of planned reserve projects, resulting in an ending balance in 2031 of approximately $22.2 million. And here we highlight the proposed increase to your contingency fund. As you can see, we currently have the contingency fund contribution in the assessment at $3 per man per month. For 2027, it is going to be $9 per man per month. That is an increase of $6 per man per month. Next slide, please, Karina. And here we provide that same snapshot, gives you a little bit of a history and a 5-year projection of the contingency fund. One thing to note, the last time there was an expenditure was back in 2021. Moving forward, staff does not plan any expenditures out of this fund, as it is purely used for contingency for things not otherwise budgeted in the business plan.
I'm sorry, right while we're here, tell me again what the 2024 transfer was?
Sure.
That
So
apparently was not put back in? And I'm sure we all approved it, I'm sure it's copacetic, it's just I don't remember.
So it had to do with a operating deficit back in 2023. So in 2024, the board approves a transfer to make up that deficit in
I
a
got
prior
it,
year.
I remember now, thank you very much.
Sure. And we are circling back to this slide here. Again, just summarizes the major components of the increase here for the business plan: reserves, utilities, employee compensation, and some insurance. And at this time, we may open it up to questions.
I just would like to say with regard to reserve, I know it says 25.6%, but that's because the fully funded balance is at $55 million. And that includes $6 million in AB 1572 earmarking that may or may not occur. At least as of now, we don't know what the status is of AB 1572. If you were to exclude that and make it 49 million, that 25% goes up. So as a result, it does look on the low side, but it's not. given where we're at. Any questions? Okay, Elsie and then Kathy.
I just wanted to mention, I mean, we've heard it ad nauseum, but I don't care. It's good news. And that is, these look really steep. The increases, both from us and from GRF, especially considering we had a pretty steep jump last year. But for my personally, that's the only one I can speak to, my other bills are going to go down $70. And that's for my 56 for the
Yes,
no, for my current,
West Coast Internet.
and thank you, internet. The getting old stuff is driving me nuts. Anyway, for the internet, it is $56. And then, I don't know, around 15 for a set top. And I know a lot of people have more stuff than I do. I don't have those recorders and all those TiVo stuff. So it's just something to keep in mind, because that virtually, for me, wipes out one of the increases entirely. And, well, just look at the whole increase and it wipes it almost out. So that also could contribute to people feeling better about a higher reserve contribution if they thought that was not. The point is, don't forget it, because it's important.
Thank you, Elsie.
Hi, okay. When I was reading all of this, and I was reading the staff report, and we went by it rather quickly in your statements, on page 4 of 25, and you mentioned a little further on in your remarks that the compensation was something like $4 and something, yet here you have it raised at $6.01 per man or per month. And my question that I really need answered, and we've discussed this before several months ago, in 2024, with the compensation, the increases, and I do feel the board has been very generous in giving 4% increases over the years, every year. But in 2024, there were 26 that were below the average. Last year, there was 87 below the average. And I understand, and I'm fully comfortable with the fact that staff has the right to distribute the compensation the way they see fit. My concern is, if we continue to have more and more people go below the average based on the fact that we are giving a decent increase per person, and the staff is the one who determines who's going to get what portion of that 4%. I always assumed it was everyone would, until last year when it went up to 87 for people below. So my question is, well, I guess I really can't ask that question. I just answered it myself. But my concern is that come September, October, November, when we are presented with the information, is the figure going to go higher than 87? If it is, that's a major concern for me in the amount of compensation we do give and how you distribute it amongst your specific employees. If I didn't convolute
I can
the
understand
problem.
that. Again, we're competing against market forces, though. If we're, say, giving out 3.5% and the market's at 6%, we're not going to catch up even if you are generous.
No, I'm well aware of that, but I'm also well aware that we have a lot of, may I speak? We have a lot of employees that have been here more than 20 and 30 years, and you have to figure that they started out at a much lower rate. So the standard compensations will not bring them up unless they are actually pulled up with some additional increases and distribution of the funds. It's a concern of mine, and it's something, as you know, being on the VMS board, I won't let it go. Okay, thank you for listening to me.
Steve?
So thank you. And I appreciate the question and the interest in our employees. So we have budgeted in 2027 for a 3.5% increase, which is consistent with CPI. But if you were to do the math by looking at the budget, you're going to see it is a little bit higher than that, given the fact that we have come up with the dollar amount to allocate to specific individuals who are well below where they should be. So, and to Siobhan's point, we do this analysis on an annual basis. We look at market comparisons and we make certain that we keep our employees at a certain threshold. And despite that, sometimes you're going to have increases in the minimum wage. You're going to have increases in other competing forces, such as if In-N-Out's paying $22 an hour, it's hard to be paying someone at less than that in other areas. But again, it's something that we look at on an annual basis, and it's up to staff to make certain that our employees are appropriately paid.
I also want to address your comment, Kathy, because, the item on page 25, it says 559 for import. On page 25, employee compensation related is 559, but on page 4 it says $6.01. But I think it's because the benefits related to compensation are actually down 42 cents. So if we were to add 601 minus the 42 cents, you do come up with the 559. So that's interesting that while gross compensation is going up, the benefits are going down,
Yes. And
which is unusual.
specifically, it's due to savings in non-union health insurance premiums.
Got it. All right.
If you'll remember, in closed session, we've described kind of the innovative things that we're doing to keep non-union employee health insurance costs under control.
Very helpful. Thank you. Any other questions? Yeah, Karina.
Juanita Skillman?
Oh, yes. Juanita?
Good afternoon, everybody. I believe that the state is raising the minimum wage in January, which will affect our compensation for our employees. I'd say considerably. It's a couple of dollars. It's going up to 20-something. And so that's something that we have to figure in, not just merit raises or how good they're doing or whatever. We've got to put in what the state is putting in, and we do live in California. Thank you.
I'm assuming the increase is in the budget?
It is.
Okay.
The budget is sufficient to cover a minimum wage increase, yes.
Thank you. Any other questions? Karina, please.
Dick Rader?
Hi, Dick.
I'm certainly in favor of lowering HOA fees wherever we can. I have a question in this state. The question is, do the reserve funds projecting forward cover the potential that we will have to pay for turf reduction, and how much is in there? That's the question. And while they're looking up, I'll give you my statement. There are two kinds of budgets: the politically comfortable one and the financially responsible one. Last year, United's assessment had to rise by 20%, the maximum allowed under California law, because years of underfunding finally caught up with us. We're going to continue to face increases like this until we correct ongoing shortfalls in our operating budget. As a board, it's your fiduciary responsibility to address these shortfalls, and you have the opportunity today. If we don't, we'll eventually have to pay the piper, meaning future assessment increases might be sharp and unavoidable, as occurred in the 20% one, rather than gradual and manageable. So I'm hoping that the idea, let's hold the line, my thing is, let's take a look at what our needs are, and we need to, I'll call it, stop kicking the can down the road. We need to face whatever, and I'm not going to get into detail. I've had some discussions with some people on the board. I think that they're aware of my concerns. Thank you.
Thank you, Dick. any further questions?
If I may address that comment once again, I'm repeating myself a little bit, but with regards to kicking the can down the road, again, you have a plan in place. I want to provide the membership that a little bit of reassurance that the board has done a good job. You've added, again, another $26 per member per month to your contributions, which is sizable towards your reserves. So you are not at the recommended 30% just yet, but it's a balancing act. We don't need to do this all in 1 year. So we have a plan in place to get you to the 30%, which is where we would like for you to be. With regards to your operating, at the last finance committee we had in late July, we communicated to everybody that we're anticipating ending the year in the operating fund favorable to budget. So that will help shore up some of the concerns that we were running at a deficit in the previous years. There's also been some efforts made with regards to cost reduction, a plan that was developed earlier on in the year that was going to be, we were going to be changing some of our programs over the course of 2 years to cover some of these shortfalls. So again, from a financial health of the company, you guys are in a rebuilding phase. You did a turnaround a couple of years ago. So repeating, I believe, one of the board members a little while ago, you had a 20% increase a couple of years ago, and that, in essence, was the beginning of the righting of the ship. And you're still course correcting and doing an excellent job, and we appreciate you taking staff's recommendations to increase funding towards specific areas such as utilities, compensation, and your additional programs as well. So staff is in favor of the current budget that is before you, and we appreciate it as always.
Will you be able to tell me how much, as I asked, the amount of money that's in reserves for turf reduction?
So I'm going to go ahead and turn that over to Kurt Weeman, Director of Landscaping, who is online. So if you wouldn't mind, if I may, Murad, can I have Dick
Point of
repeat
information,
his
please.
question?
Point of information, do we earmark reserves?
So do we earmark reserves? Not in the 30-year plan. Thank you for the question. We identify all of the components that you have within the community, but we do not earmark them necessarily from the funding. But the question
Yes, can you close the door?
But the question that's being asked is that identified in the 30-year plan? And I'm going to turn that over to Kurt.
Before we do that, I just want to say that in addition to the $26.36 increase in the reserve fund, we also increased the contingency fund by $6. It's not on here, but we did $6 more. So, just in case there are any imponderables in 27, El Nino, whatever it is. So I feel comfortable about that. Thank you.
So we have Kurt here online to address the question with regards to specifically whether or not we have turf reduction included in the current plan and whether or not it was included as a component in the 30-year plan. So
as far as large-scale turf reduction in regards to AB 1572, there are no funds allocated in the 2027 proposed budget for that. There's a small amount for the small scale turf reduction we've been doing annually, but as far as the large scale, there's nothing allocated.
Kurt, can you address why it's not included in the 2027 plan? I know it's intentionally excluded.
Sure. Because the regulations have been on hold for well over a year. There's an understanding that they may be scaled back. And without knowing what those regulations are going to be, at this point, with the regulations being postponed, the deadlines are also postponed. So we're not up against a clock like we thought we were a year ago. So we have not, like I said, allocated any funds this year for it. We are waiting for the regulations to see how extreme they're going to be and what its effect it's going to have on the mutual.
Thank you, Kurt. I think that's reasonable, given the lack of guidelines. I mean, it sounds like we have time. Some people are pushing for some kind of baseline budget, just put something in there because we know something is going to happen. And I do understand that. But at the same time, given that we do have the time and the regulations are not out, I think it all advocates for deferring this matter to next year. Elsie?
First of all, hi Kurt. First of all, I go along with the plan. But I'm just, so like say, but say, in June, all of a sudden the state of California says, hey, you guys have had enough time and here's what you have to do and you got 6 months to do it in. Say, worst case analysis. So would I mean, what would be the mechanics of funding that at that point? I mean, I know we can do it. We got plenty of money. I'm just saying, would it be a loan? From ourselves, or would it be extra funds allocated? I don't know, the mechanics.
It would be through a board-approved supplemental appropriation that would be brought forward as a request from staff.
Thanks.
There's one down there, Mary.
Oh, Mary, please.
Just a quick one about the landscape. Would it make any sense to appropriate, funds for turf reduction anyway, given the fast escalating water prices?
From a landscape point of view, the current legislation talks about the two different kinds of turf, that one will need to be removed and the other isn't. The main regulation we're waiting for is a definition of the turf that's going to need to come out. So we don't want to go, and I know we were looking at for water savings, there's also maintenance savings, et cetera, that go along with that. But without knowing which turf they're going to require us to remove, it would not make sense to remove turf that they're going to let us keep and have to remove additional turf given the funds that are going to be needed to remove the turf. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you.
But Kurt, this is Siobhan. You just removed 30,000 some odd square feet of turf recently.
Yes, we did, and that's the amount of money that we do have budgeted. To 30,000 square feet is not much compared to the 130 acres of turf that United has. That's up for grabs. So, like I said, we're going to continue with those small sections, the hard to maintain, difficult to irrigate sections. There's money for that in the current budget. I believe it's approximately $200,000. I don't have the number in front of me. But as far as large scale removals, which we're talking hundreds of thousands of square feet, that's what's on hold.
That will come from reserves, right? Yeah. Okay. Yes, Steve.
So we have Manuel Gomez, the Director of Maintenance and Construction here. If we can have him address the question that came up earlier from Mr. Brett Gilman having to do with roof cleaning.
Before we do that, I would like to ask Tony for any comments he may have, because you may have to leave, right?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. No, I like what we're doing here and reaching consensus on this, so I applaud the board.
You're
I'm
okay.
sorry I have to leave.
All right, thank you. Okay, please go ahead.
Manuel, if you're able to come up. So, and to remind the board, if I paraphrase what Mr. Gilman had said, is he was concerned that we should have at least 2 cleanings of the roofs on an annual basis in order to remove debris.
Good afternoon, board. So just as a reminder, in United Mutual, we have funding in the roof program for an annual cleaning of flat roofs only. Over the last couple of months, we've had discussions about potentially adding funding for sloped roofs to be cleaned. And in the budget that's proposed for 2027, the M&C component of programs is allocating $15.5 million towards various programs. Of that $15.5 million, 1.3 is for the roof program. And at the July 22nd MNC committee meeting, I reported to the committee that we were proposing to add $12,000 to the roof line item, to that 1.3 million, increasing that by $12,000 to set up a contingency fund that would be available to clean sloped roofs on an as-needed, request-only basis. The committee asked how we came up with that number and how many roofs that would clean. And I think during that discussion, my recollection is that I said 6. And then after further back and forth with the committee, I told the committee that I didn't have anything to base that on. That was just my on-the-spot estimation, but that I would go back and get more data to support whatever the number of roofs was. So since then, we've gotten price quoting from the roofing vendor, and the challenges in terms of not being able to let them know how many roofs we would do every year and what type of buildings we would do every year. So the best we were able to get is that a single-story unit, a single-story building with 3 units, similar to that's the type of building the gentleman, Mr.
Gilman?
Gilman has, a 3-unit single-story building would cost between $500 and $800, depending on the amount of debris, to clean. A multi-story building would cost between $1,500 to $2,000. So, to clean the sloped roof, right? So if we were only to clean multi-story buildings, if those are the only buildings we receive requests for, you'd have funding for up to 6 buildings. If we had only requests to clean single-story units, then you'd have funding to do up to 14 of those single-story units. But it's going to depend on which type of building is requested and what the slope, what the number of square footage of the thing is. So we're still comfortable with a $12,000 allocation. The board can increase that, the board can decrease that, or the board can decide that we're going to stick with our current practice, which is not to clean sloped roofs during the winter months, as we do with the flat roofs now. So that's the only additional information I have for you today. I wish I could give you more specifics, details, but again, this was intended to be a contingency fund, so that if residents did call and say, hey, I have a significant amount of debris on my roof, can you guys come out and clean it? It's a sloped roof. We would use this funding for that, and once the funding runs out, we would be done for the year, unless we had significant requests, and we'd have to come back to the board seeking more funds.
Well, thank you, Manuel. We'll consider this matter at the next MNC meeting then. Mayor?
Just a clarifying question. Did I hear you right that the sloped roofs aren't cleaned?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, the practice has been that the wind or rain would wash whatever debris might be accumulated on the sloped roofs. I think in this case, there was a concern about pine needles on a roof, and that they would get lodged into the tiles and therefore would not be as easily blown off or washed off.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Manuel.
In his confirmation, that $12,000 has been included in this version 3 budget.
It has been?
It has been.
Oh, okay, good. It's good news. All right. With that, we can move to item 9, director's comments. I will start with you, Mary. Do you have any comments?
I just have a quick question here. It might be a math question. On page 9 of 25, sorry if I was supposed to have done this earlier. The third line from the top, the total utilities and telephone change is 9%. And right above it, under telephone, the percent increase is 893%. Is that a typo or is that Ting?
Just because the amounts are small, that's why.
Correct, yeah. So these hold different weights when you're looking at the total increase of 591,000, but the 893% is correct for telephone. We did previously budget a lesser amount in 2026. 2027 is significantly higher. But when we're talking dollars, we're comparing $1,000 to $9,500. So that's why that percentage is so large.
So was there an actual increase? Is
Yes.
that big?
So I don't recall the specifics, maybe Steve does, but we switched providers in a certain area. So
I believe this is also having to do with some automation and some landscaping and some cellular costs that need to be updated. So, and again, so when you're adding up all the utility increases, it is both these two lines that are reflected on this page here, and then it's also including electricity, sewer, and water that are reflected on the preceding page. But in total, it's a 9%. But the reason why telephone is going up so dramatically is just additional work for the cell services in the community.
Right,
And it's a newer program.
right. It kind of begs the question, were the Ting expenses located elsewhere here?
the Ting expenses are specific to GRF. So in this report, it is United only, and you will not see it in this report.
Gotcha, thanks.
Thank you, Mary. Kathy?
I do have a few questions, but I don't think now is the time for me to ask them. I don't have it real clear in my head. I do think the amount of money, other than the one, it's appropriate. It might even need to be a little higher so that we can get caught up, because if what they said every year now, it's going to go up that amount or more, that's really going to hinder some older people who have lived here for 40 and 50 years. And, you know, but I agree we need the increase, that's all.
Noted. Thank you, Kathy. Elsie?
No, thank you for a nice, well-organized, easily understood presentation.
Charlie?
I knew you'd get to me. No, well, it's sort of funny because I have notes here and bullets, and the questions they asked covered everything I had down here that I want to talk about. So my questions did get answered. The total percent increase that we're sitting between 26 and 27 is what exactly?
So, Karina, if you can go back a couple slides. So on United specifically, that increase is found on slide number 8. To address the question specifically, it's 9.7%.
9.7, okay.
If you're going to take into consideration a blending of both United and GRF, that goes up to 13%. And I also want to, in our version 1 budget, I believe I presented some future forecasts for some of our assessments. So we've done the math within our department, and based upon the current funding of your future reserves to get you to that 30% within a few years, including those contributions and an assumption that your general operating expenses are on average going to increase by about 5%, what we're anticipating for the next 4 years, it's going to change. These are just forecasted numbers based upon some generalities, but I would anticipate United specific is probably going to be at 4% for the next few years, as long as you maintain the plan that we've had put forth in this business plan for 27, 28, 29, so on and so forth. So because you're not going to be increasing, based upon the plan that we put together, you're not going to be increasing your contributions to your reserves at more than 4%. So when you blend the operating and the reserve, you should be at 4.5% in the upcoming years, just to provide you with some comfort. I know we commented earlier that GRF, different company, may see some additional increases next year, given the fact that we couldn't bring everything forward. But United, at least, is anticipated to be probably at 4, hopefully no more than 4.5 in 2028. Of course, that could change depending upon your funding requests.
If I understand you correctly, you're saying the percentage will be smaller because the reserve was at a lower level, and we increased it, and as it increased, any further increases will be at a lower percentage than the ones prior, where they were larger because the reserve was lower. So from percentage perspective, the percentage will go down. But in dollar terms, which is what I was saying earlier, it's going to go up.
Correct.
I just want to make sure people understand that the percentage will go down, the dollars will go up. Thank you. Charlie?
I'm good for now.
All right. My comments then. I think the budget is reflective of where we are. I thank you for the work that was done since version 1. I think excellent work has been done. It is higher than expected at 13%, but I think it does cover all the items that we needed to cover. I'm very glad that the reserve has increased appropriately, that we increased the contingency fund, and that all operating needs have been met at appropriate service levels. So with that, I want to thank you again for all the work you've done with this budget. And if there are no comments or questions, I will adjourn this meeting.